To steal a phrase from Charles Dickens, it's the best of times and worst of times in Summit County. Unemployment in Colorado is the lowest in history at 2.5%, and local unemployment is 3 points lower. The housing market is booming, and even the stock market is hitting all-time highs. But if it feels harder to get ahead now than ever before, you aren't crazy. Across Summit County and the entire state, employees and employers are finding it difficult or sometimes impossible to make ends meet. Even Vail Resorts is struggling. This year, Vail tops the list of companies in Colorado with vacant spots. They're struggling to fill 1,400 positions across the entire company in Colorado. There isn't one simple explanation or solution, but help is out there. Jessica Valand with the Colorado Workforce Center explains what's going on, what the future might hold, and what you can do in the meantime to live comfortably and happily in the high country. Phil Lindeman, Krystal 93 News Director, and I am here in the studio today with Jessica Valand. She's the Director of Workforce Development for the Colorado Workforce Center. Jessica, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, and you came over from Steamboat, which means that you cover a pretty big area. So you cover 10 counties in the mountains and then along the I-70 corridor, and I wanted to start at the top. I did a Facebook poll of locals who live here in town, asking them, what's the job market like right now? Are you able to find jobs? Are employers able to, employ people? And the feedback I've been getting is yes. I work 3 jobs and I still can't afford to live here. Right. So it's a strange situation. And we were just discussing some numbers. Unemployment is at an all-time low.
Yes, that's correct. So in the state of Colorado, unemployment's about 2.5%, and that hasn't changed for the last year and a half or so. So we've been below 3% for a while as a state. The mountain communities, it's worse. So
really?
Yes. So Summit County's unemployment rate for the month of October, which is the most recent, was at 2.2%. So half a percentage point below the state. Eagle County was at 2.4. Summit actually, I think, bottomed out in August. It was at like 1.7%. So that's really low. In Summit County, what that means is for the month of October, we had 1,360 jobs open. Could be part-time, could be full-time. Actually, only 9% of them were full-time, so that tells you something. Mm-hmm, and there were only 440 people who were looking for work.
Really?
Yeah. So we've got way more jobs right now than we have workers available to fill those positions.
Yeah. So it's almost a weird dynamic going on where, the jobs are out there, they're available, but we don't have enough people. What is the issue there? Obviously that Facebook poll, I heard that for a lot of people, it's cost of living, that the job wages are not increasing at the same rate that the cost of living is.
Yeah, so this is not new for mountain communities, right? And I think for a lot of folks that work in service industry or are associated with tourism in some way, shape, or form, it's kind of always been this story about like, this is an awesome place to live, quality of life is amazing, but you have to be able to work 3 or 4 jobs just to get by. I have responsibility for a lot of resort communities, including, Steamboat and here in Summit County, Vail, including down in Aspen in the Roaring Fork Valley. And that's not a new picture, right? These places have always been kind of expensive. Some of the things that I would say is more of a recent phenomenon is the amount of housing stock that's out there that we're losing to short-term rentals. So increasingly, if you own a house, you can make so much more money renting it on Airbnb or VRBO, $400, $500 a night, a few nights a month. You're going to make way more that way than you are renting that out to someone. And so we're seeing this increased prevalence. In Summit County, I think it's actually 70% of your housing stock are second homes or short-term rentals.
Wow, yeah, and I've heard a very high number before, but I don't know if I've heard that high of a number. That's an incredibly high number.
Yes.
And like you said, some of it comes back to VRBO. What are some of the other things that are kind of causing issues right now for the workforce that's supposedly there? Maybe even for employers. What kind of issues are employers running into? Yeah,
so employers, like I said, we've got tons of open jobs out there and not enough humans to fill those positions. And so a lot of businesses are really struggling. Actually, the number one employer in the state right now for vacancies is Vail Resorts. So statewide, they've got 14.
No way.
Yeah, they're
in search of employees.
Yes,
right now.
1,400, more than 1,400 openings right now. So if you were to look in the whole state of Colorado, they're the #1 employer in terms of vacant jobs. So obviously that has huge impacts here along I-70. Vail's going to be the biggest employer who's got open positions. But that also means that there's a lot of smaller employers that are really struggling to fill spots. So, think about your favorite local coffee shop or the restaurant that you like to go hang out at, or, your retail clothing store, even the grocery store. If you guys go over to the Target in Silverthorne, you might have noticed that nobody works there.
Or that everybody has a sign in the window saying, we are hiring, please.
Yes.
We are hiring.
Help wanted signs everywhere. And this is true in the state, right? So this is not like a phenomenon that's unique to our mountain communities. But, what I think is really tricky in our resort communities is we're so seasonally driven. And so right now is kind of like that big hiring season time of year. And so you are seeing an increase in, wow, Vail has tons of open positions that they need to fill because that's the season we're getting into.
Yeah, and like you said, this time of year is always big hiring, big time for everybody to be finding jobs. But again, the unemployment rate, we were talking a little earlier as well, it's the lowest that it's been, and it's stayed the lowest that it's been in Colorado history.
Yep.
Is that causing issues right now, too? The fact that wages have not kind of caught up with the fact that we've created a lot of jobs, that there's a lot of opportunity?
Yeah, no, it definitely is causing a lot of issues for the state. So if you'll indulge me in a little wonkery here.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So economists talk about full employment, and what unemployment is. Like, I think a lot of people hear that and they don't really know what it means. Unemployment is the number of people who in the last 4 weeks have said they're able to work and they're looking. Right? So as a percentage of all the people who are out there available in the workforce. So that's what unemployment is. So economists like to see that rate somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6%. That's kind of the sweet spot for businesses to be able to find the right talent and for workers to find good jobs, right? Some people think like, oh, wouldn't zero unemployment be great? Well, no, of course not, because not all jobs in workforce are interchangeable. You don't want a plumber, getting a job as a heart surgeon. Right?
Yeah, true, exactly.
Right. So you need a little bit of a cushion there in order for the economy to really hum the way it's supposed to. Colorado has been below full employment for more than 2 years now.
2 whole years.
Mm-hmm,
2 whole years. Wow.
Yeah. And the country as a whole is sitting at about 4.5% unemployment. So nationally, the country's in a really good spot. We've been kind of steadily seeing jobs being added. I think what Colorado, and as a state, we were kind of earlier to come out of the recession than a lot of other states. So Colorado might be a little bit of a bellwether in terms of the direction the country is headed in. We've got this challenge now where we have tons of jobs. And what we would expect to see when there's not enough labor to go around is businesses competing on wages. So you kind of assume, if I'm a business owner, I need to hire someone and there's not a lot of people out there. How am I going to attract talent? Right? I'm going to offer better compensation. That's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. What's interesting is that the data shows that that's not really been happening. And so we see inflation in costs of a lot of things, childcare or in available housing. But what we don't see is a corresponding increase in wages. So our average wages have been really flat. And so what that means is that your rent's going up and up, but your paycheck isn't. And so people are really feeling the squeeze.
Yeah, really feeling the squeeze. And do you have any reasons, or have you guys been able to guess at particularly why they haven't been raising? Is it does it have to do with the population influx that, that everybody figures, oh, everybody's moving here, I don't need to change my job?
Yeah, I think Colorado is an interesting state because we've always been lucky in being able to attract a lot of talent, right? The quality of life here is awesome. It's a really desirable place to live. The mountain communities even more so, I think, than the Front Range. And so we've been able to coast a little bit on this, well, I don't have to pay that much money because people just want to be here. I think that's how a lot of the people who came to the state in the first place. That's why we came, right? It's all I know that's how I got here 17 years ago, right? So that's kind of we've been able to default to that a little bit. But what that's contingent upon is that those people we can attract from Texas and Illinois and Florida who want to live here, that they can find a place to live and work, right? They might be willing to earn, $2 less an hour if it means that they can ski in their free time. But but they have to be able to find some place to live. And so the housing stock issue is a real challenge. Construction kind of stopped in Colorado with the recession, and we have not added back the number of houses that we should have in order to be where we're at now in terms of demand.
Yeah, and I do remember seeing some numbers that said, even though it feels like construction right now is kicking up a notch, that's construction right now.
Exactly.
Those aren't homes ready for people to move into,
exactly.
Not apartments ready for people to move into. It's going to be another couple of years until all that construction is ready.
Exactly. And because the real estate markets are so crazy in the state, what that also means is if you're in construction, it's probably more lucrative for you to build like a high-end single family dwelling than it is going to, be building like multifamily or workforce housing, right? And so that's also part of the picture is, people are trying to maximize their profits. That's what businesses do. You can't fault them for that. But there's a lot more money in the development of more luxury homes, I think, than there is in workforce housing.
Okay. Well, and like you said, that's just kind of comes back to the market, almost like VRBO. If I can make more money off renting it for, a holiday season to a family from out of town, why would I rent it for an entire season to some ski bums who I'm not sure are going to treat it the way that they should? That
is totally true. And the other thing, if it's your second home, you want to be able to use it sometime, right? And if you got it on Airbnb, you control when you're in there and then when you want to rent it out, which is not true for a long-term rental.
True. And so you don't have to have the guest house for the full-time tenant to move into when you and your family want to come and use the home. Right. Well, so lots of things are up in the air, and that's making it really tricky for the workforce, maybe not to find jobs, but to be happy and satisfied and also to afford, to live here.
Right.
Switching gears then to ways that people can make it work. Because I think I'm like a lot of people. When I first moved up here, I worked 2 or 3 jobs to make sure that I can make it work.
Right.
And, I'm still up here and I don't want to have to leave. How can the Workforce Center, help some people who are struggling right now? Maybe not struggling because they are, unskilled or because they, just can't find a job, but to help them find the right job.
Right. So we've got a workforce center in Frisco, right off of Main Street. We also have a workforce center over in Edwards. And so the staff there really are experts in a couple of things that can be really beneficial for job seekers. First and foremost, I would say, is that they can help identify, okay, what are the jobs that are growing? What are the jobs that are going to pay me a livable wage? And maybe have what we call a career ladder attached to them. So, if you get your foot in the door in retail, that's probably going to be the extent of it, right? There's not a lot of upward mobility or progression there. But what the staff in the workforce centers can do is to help you understand what are maybe the entry-level jobs that then have a logical progression. So I start out kind of at the bottom, but within, a year or with additional education or with additional experience, then the wage level bumps up to this or bumps up to this. And by the way, that's an industry that's growing. So that's something that we can help folks identify really easily.
Great, and help people with that roadmap.
Yes,
to get
absolutely.
there. What are some jobs right now or industries right now that are on the up and up?
So one of the ones that we just talked about is actually construction. So construction is a really interesting industry because, there's skilled trades as a really specific talent and a background that you have. But what we're seeing is kind of an increased willingness among folks in the construction business to do on-the-job training, to bring somebody in who maybe has an interest and a willingness to learn, who perhaps doesn't have, all of the safety certifications or the background experience,
or they
but
might not
to train
have
them.
Yeah, they might not have the plumber or the electrician cert that they need, but they can help somebody who's willing and able to get on the site.
Right. So construction, and you can see that just kind of driving around. Construction's pretty hot right now. They don't have nearly as, like most people, but they don't have the workforce that they need in order to meet the demand. One of the things, though, that's challenging up here in the mountains is that it's easier to do construction down in Denver, where it's was a balmy 57 degrees yesterday. I was just down there. You can do construction kind of more year-round down there, and construction is booming on the Front Range too. So what that means is that when there's big demand from other parts of the state, it pulls our available workforce out. And so there definitely is statewide, but also in our up and down I-70, a real shortage for skilled construction workers.
Yeah, and I would imagine that especially if you're not somebody who absolutely must live in the mountains, you're going to be willing to follow it where it takes you.
Exactly.
Follow that job where it needs to go. Okay, great. Sorry, we got off track just a little bit. So some other ways that the Workforce Center can help. Like you said, they can ID a roadmap, ID some industries that are on the rise and handyman jobs that are also on the rise.
Right.
What else can they do to help?
So we can also help people connect with businesses or industries maybe that you don't have past experience in or knowledge with. One of the things that we do is also work really closely with businesses to understand what are their pain points, who are they looking for, what opportunities do they have within their companies. And we can be that point of connection for somebody who's, maybe, like we've talked about, it's not hard to get a job these days. Pretty much having a pulse means that you can get a job. But if you want a better job, or you want a job with some legs to it, or you want a job where maybe not tomorrow it's going to pay all my bills, but I can expect that within 2 years I could get someplace. And that's maybe you've been customer service your entire career. You want to pivot to like healthcare. Well, what do you know about healthcare? Come into one of our offices. We know a lot about healthcare. We can kind of help you parse that.
Yeah. And I imagine that up here in the mountains, you especially run into lots of people who move here, maybe right out of college, or they didn't even go to college, and they're just here, trying to have some fun, doing that 1 year of vacation before they get to real life. How can you help somebody who start on real life now? Not like it's a waste of a year to be here in the mountains, but if somebody loves it, how can you help them, not just waste their time up here, make sure that they're moving towards something bigger, better, that will help them maybe be able to stay here.
Right. So I think that's a great point. Like you said, a lot of people do kind of come to ski bum it for a little while and then go, this is great. How can I make this work if I don't want to live with 5 other guys in a 2-bedroom apartment? So one of the things that we can help with is identifying what kind of a fancy word for us is transferable skills. So, when we talk about, especially pivoting out of an industry like tourism or, hospitality, recreation, if you want to get into something that is a little bit more professional opportunity in it, but all you've done previously is customer service, or maybe you were a lift op or whatever, bring your resume in and we can take a look at it with you and help you kind of translate that experience into the language of an industry that has more professional opportunity. Okay.
So like you said, given a little advice on how to switch, even if you think that you don't belong in that industry. Right. And a lot of times when you're working with clients or people who come in for help, is that an issue that you run into when somebody's like, I just don't have the skills. I don't think I would ever fit into that industry.
I think a lot of people don't know where to start. And that seems totally normal, right? You know the pool that you're swimming in, and when somebody says like, hey, get out and go over there, that feels really foreign and you're not really sure where to begin. So that's where, all of the staff in the workforce centers are experts in employment. And so, they can really kind of help make that transition seem a little bit less scary and more comfortable for you. The other thing that we can offer, and again, this is available for anybody who walks in the door. There's no cost or charge to any of this.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Totally free.
Yep.
So you don't have to be making the big bucks to even go to the workforce center.
No.
Good.
No. This is all available for anybody who has a need or is interested. We have a ton of different assessment materials. So, maybe you've been doing a job for a while and you don't totally love it, but you're not sure what's a good fit for you. We have, a million different assessments that we can take to help figure out what, your aptitude or your personality type might be a really good fit for these occupations. And then we can tell you what of those occupations are in demand here and projected to grow over the coming years. So we can really apply some strategy and some intention to how you think about your career.
And strategy is never a bad idea when you are trying to look ahead on things. And again, with the Workforce Center, not just for, the folks we were talking about, the ones who are, straight out of college and in their early 20s, anybody and everybody.
Yes, absolutely. We actually see a lot of folks who, are older. Maybe they've been doing the same thing for a long time and physically they can't keep doing it. Or, their life circumstances have changed and they need their job to align a little bit more better with whatever they've got going on in life. So we really do serve a wide spectrum of folks.
Along with employers as well, what are some of the services, I know we talked about a little bit before, but some services you offer for employers, especially if they're struggling to fill positions that will help them stay open? Right.
So one of the big things that we do is that kind of convening thing, right? So we've got job seekers coming in our front door. We can help businesses who call and say, hey, I need staff. Who do you have that might be a fit for this? So that's one of the biggest things that we do with businesses. The state also has like our own, we call it a labor exchange. That's kind of a nerdy term, but it's basically like, think of like Indeed or Monster.com. It's called Connecting Colorado. And when you can, create an account in there, Connecting Colorado has more jobs for the state of Colorado in it than any other job search engine. And so and the data behind the scenes in that, we can do a lot of matching for businesses just based off of the data that we have in that system.
Oh, great. And that is, again, and the name of the website is Connecting Colorado?
Connecting Colorado.
Okay, Connecting Colorado. And if somebody goes there, what will they find?
So if you can indicate if you're looking for work or if you're a business who's looking for workers. And based off of that, you can create a profile that enables you to say, hey, this is my skill set. This is what I want to do. Here's my education, my aptitude if you're a job seeker. And on the business side, they can do the same thing. So, I need people with X amount of experience or, these type of qualifications. And then the system, because it is the largest database of jobs in the state, does a really great job of matching businesses with available workforce. And then, if that's not working in a system perspective, our individual staff in the offices, because these are small communities and all of my folks in the offices live and work in these communities, they know people really well. So, they can really kind of help folks navigate in a way that, especially I think like in Summit County, you get a lot of people who are, fresh off the boat.
Brand new to town.
Yeah, exactly. My staff, a lot of them have been living here their entire lives. And so, they can really kind of help you like, oh, you should connect with Sue over at this, she's looking for someone just like you.
Yeah, community connections go a long way, especially when you're trying to find that job that's a little bit more than just the entry level,
absolutely
basic job. And the Connecting for Colorado website, again, better resource than, even going out on Craigslist sometime.
Oh, for sure.
Or the newspaper even, because like you said, it's real targeted. It's targeted. It's a huge database. And it's made there solely for jobs.
Yep, and it's free for businesses and for job seekers. There's no cost.
Oh, no cost at all. So it's free to post no matter what. So again, even better than newspaper classifieds.
Yes,
which you still have to pay for these days, no matter if nobody's picking up the paper or not. What else could you tell people right now? Just kind of best advice or things that you've seen, success stories. What would you let people know right now that there is hope at the end of the tunnel?
So for people who are working 2, 3, 4 jobs and really kind of struggling to piece it together, we do see a lot of success when you kind of reevaluate what's your skill set, what do you want to be doing, and then match that to good information. So, I think luckily for me, like my job is to know about all the jobs that are out there. So different types of occupations and, what skill set do you need in order to succeed in those and how much are they going to pay you? But that's not common knowledge, right? And so usually like we know what we've seen. So our parents were teachers or, all of our friends are working in the restaurant industry. And so we end up kind of limiting the pool naturally, right? I think that's normal human behavior.
True. Yeah. It can be a little intimidating sometimes to, to be in a new place and then go outside of your comfort zone even more.
Right. And a lot of times, in various industries, there's special language, like you can look at a job post and be like, I don't even know what these things are. Like what the certification, like that's an acronym. I don't even know what it means. Right. And so, having someone who can kind of help you navigate that and like we said, be strategic and be savvy about what you look for and how you market yourself in an environment that's going to give you the best shot at a job that has legs on it instead of something that's just kind of dead end. On the business side of things, one of the things that I encourage a lot of business owners who are struggling with, hey, I've got 6 part-time positions open, I can't fill any of them, is, hey, what if you thought about collapsing that into 2 full-time positions that pay $60,000 a year and have benefits? Because if you do the math on it, you might end up breaking even or even saving a little bit of money if you can turn multiple part-time jobs into one really great job. One of the things that we've seen a lot of is businesses trying to limit the number of hours in a position so they don't have to provide healthcare coverage.
True, and I know that's been throwing a lot of people just a curveball trying to find their way around that.
Totally, and for what it's worth, Summit, Eagle, Pitkin, and Garfield counties is the most expensive health insurance market in the United States, right? And so it is a genuine pain point for businesses to have to provide healthcare for folks, and it also can be a huge selling point if you as a business can figure out a way to make that part of your compensation package. So, I always encourage businesses to think about, if I'm going to hire 4 part-time people, all of which kind of, have one foot out the door because they're looking for a 50-cent raise across the street, or they don't feel committed because I'm not paying them well, so they're not giving me a lot. Is that really helping your business grow and thrive? compared to maybe you just have one really awesome employee who doesn't want to leave you because you take really good care of them, and you create a livable wage job for that one.
True. And well, like we were talking about within employees, employees, maybe they got to think a little outside the box in this strange work economy we have right now.
Yeah.
So do employers.
Yes,
like you said,
absolutely.
Employers, you might have your entire life had a business that you had 6 part-time employees, and that's the way it works because that's how the economy's always worked.
Right.
Well, economy is shifting just a touch. So survival this year, if nothing else, might be a little rethinking how you do things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I hear a lot, and full disclosure, I am a millennial. I barely qualify at 35.
Me too, yeah.
I just squeaked in. But I hear so many businesses and folks kind of complaining about like, oh, millennials aren't loyal. They don't have any work ethic. I can't count on them. They aren't dependable. And, the thing that I always talk about with loyalty and dependability is that it's a two-way street, right? And so, I think a lot of folks my age and younger kind of watch their parents give a ton to a career or a job, and then the economy blew up and everything they had worked for and saved for disappeared overnight. And so you kind of think like, well, it's, to me, seems like a smart decision of I'm not going to give my life to a business that isn't going to take care of me in return, right? I don't think that's selfish. I think that that's a reasonable conclusion to draw from that, what we saw in the economy in 2008.
Like you said, I would say it's almost an observation instead of a total, like throwing away values or culture or whatever it is.
Right.
It's an observation, like you said, that I saw the way that this worked out for somebody else. I'm not going to put myself in the same position.
Exactly. And so I think for, business owners who kind of feel like they're struggling with their staff being dependable or reliable, what reason are you giving them to be loyal to you? Are you paying them a fair wage? Are you giving them flexibility? Are you understanding the fact that, people get sick and they need to be able to not come to work and not, lose their ability to buy groceries that month because they didn't show up, right? And so, if you want a worker to be loyal to you, I think that like most things in life, you get what you give. And so that's something that we've seen change a lot in the economy too, is that both businesses and workers have become increasingly disloyal to each other. And that's not great for the economy. It creates a lot of churn. It creates a lot of financial instability for folks. And so I think that both, especially people who own businesses and see this as a pain point for them, can make really concerted steps to be that employer of choice, right? It's like, how do we make it so that everybody wants to come and work here because they know we're a great place to work? And those companies in this community. I think everybody does. Who treats their staff well, and who has a reputation for not taking care of workers.
Absolutely. And employees, they see that as well. Mm-hmm. They definitely see that. They recognize that before they even apply.
Yes.
By the time they walk in. Jessica, that was about the last thing that I had for you. Wanted to ask one last final question then. Where do you see this leading? We've been talking a lot today about this strange sort of, state of the workforce. Any guesses or estimates on exactly when things might level out or when they might return to normal, if at all they will?
Yeah. I think the one thing that we can count on is that we're not ever going back, right? So like the toothpaste is out of the tube in that regard. And, for good reason. But I think moving forward, one of the things that's a real challenge is that like we have these systems and structures that are slow to change and kind of catch up. And of course, technology is changing our workplaces very rapidly. And things like, if you have healthcare and how your healthcare follows you, or, if you have the ability to apply for unemployment insurance, if you get let go of a job, all of that stuff was really kind of created in the early 20th century. And it doesn't match very well with our current world of work. So I think that, there's a necessary course correction that's going to have to happen fairly soon. As far as this extreme low unemployment in the state of Colorado, one thing that's actually interesting, the state demographer's office just this week and let folks know that more people left the state of Colorado last year.
Yeah, I remember seeing that as well.
Yeah. So, we are going to start feeling these pain points in really, real ways. The reality when it comes to, if a business could turn more tables or sell more stuff or make more widgets or whatever, but they can't because they don't have the workforce, that results ultimately in economic stagnation, right? If I could make a profit that I'm not making because I don't have labor, that slows the economy down. So it's definitely a problem that needs some real creative thinking around what the solutions are going to be for the state. I don't think we can sustain this indefinitely.
And I would hope that we wouldn't have to. It would be nice, definitely, if things leveled out. But in the meantime, like you were saying, Workforce Center is a great resource, a great place to go if you have questions about where to work or how to find workers.
Yes.
Jessica, thanks again for making time to come in. And how can people contact the Workforce Center? If they don't have time to go, down the street right away.
Yeah, so you can call the Workforce Center in Frisco or in Edwards. Is this also covering Eagle County? So you can give them a call. You can look online and find the Workforce Center that's closest to you. There are Workforce Centers all over the state. So let's say like you're down in the Front Range and you want to take care of that in Jefferson County. All of the services are free. All of the services are consistent and the same all across the state. So the important thing to remember is that no matter where you are, there's a Workforce Center nearby, and we can help you find a good job.
Help is out there.
Yes.
Great. Jessica, thank you for making time to come in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Phil Lindemann, Krystal 93.